Hello, everyone. Welcome to the INSIDEWAG Nutrition Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Josh. And today we're going to be talking about signing up for one-on-one coaching and what that entails.
Yeah, so we're going to break down the entire process from making the decision to sign up for WAG, what it is you're going to provide to your coach, what your coach is going to do with that information, and then essentially laying out the possibilities that you'll face in the process of being coached
hmm
by a certified WAG nutrition coach. And just so you have a better understanding of what to expect, to set reasonable expectations, know what that process looks like. And most clients coming in kind of just like, okay, so you're going to tell me what to eat, how many calories to hit and things like that. Right. And
Yep.
like, but what does that mean? Like what's going to happen over time? Like what's the plan? What's the game plan?
Yeah.
Clients have a lot of questions. And while we have most coaches start off with a general idea of what the plan is, we really don't know what the plan is until we get into it
Right. Yeah.
and get to understand the client some more. Right.
Yeah. And we always talk about, every coach has their own way of like approaching it and using their own language and wording. But and we'll get into this deeper, but what a lot of clients and people just getting into it need to understand is that the initial macros and the initial uh, contact with the coach, that's like the springboard. That's the jumping
Mm.
off point of the relationship that you're going to develop over time. And those weekly check-ins are absolutely critical to seeing the success and being consistent with the
Mm.
plans that your coach has for you. And again, we'll talk more details in a minute, but that's just a super important fact to get
Yes.
out there right away. So, I guess as we get into this, Chris, do you want to? We'll bounce back and forth, but do you
Mm.
want to play like the client, and
Yeah.
then I'll talk about what I'm seeing on the coach end, and vice versa, or vice versa? Does that
Yeah.
sound like a good idea?
I think that's thorough. Yeah, it's a good way to
Cool.
cover both sides of the experience because there's two experiences going on here. There are
Yep.
obviously the client's experience and then the coach's experience with that client. And what
Mhm.
that client provides is what the coach has to work with.
That's
So,
right.
right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so
Yep.
that's an important component of it. So, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're doing a Google search, something like that, looking up nutrition coaching, or maybe a friend recommended you to WAG, and then you've been thinking about it, but you finally decide you're like, you know what, today's the day. I'm going to sign up. I need this. You hit a point like many WAG clients, past, present, and future, will hit and decide to take action to sign up for this thing that they have heard good things about. And so you go to workingagainstgravity.com/join. You click on the get a coach button. And what that's going to do is you then get to pick one of our nutrition coaching packages. We have our essentials package, which is essentially just, great for new and seasoned macro trackers. Maybe you don't need the added touch of like video coaching per se, but written weekly check-ins is pretty great. Or you got some familiarity with tracking calories or macros, or maybe you don't, or that price point just fits your budget, and that's what you go for. So you've got that. And then more recently, we've introduced our NCP, which is Nutrition Coaching Plus program. With that, you get the normal weekly check-ins, but once per month, you're going to jump on a video coaching call chat with your coach to meet face to face and really get into the fine details of things and what's going on in your world, and really have a really thoughtful interactive exchange with your coach at least once a month. Generally, when you sign up for the program, your first touch point with your coach will be that video chat, so you really have a strong starting point of understanding what your needs are, what your obstacles are, and then the coach can help say, well, these are the two things we're going to initially focus on, get some groundwork laid there and work on some consistency factors, and then we'll take it from there. So
Yeah.
you click on the appropriate membership level, you sign up. That's then going to take you to sign up and create an account in Seismic, which is the software system that we use to navigate and manage our clients and our check-ins and billing purposes as well. This is also the place where all your pertinent data and information is going to be stored. Your logs for tracking your macros, your calories, your sleep, your alcohol, your water, your mood, your measurements, your weigh-ins, also stress levels. What am I missing, Josh?
Did you say hunger levels,
Hunger
mood,
levels, appetite,
energy?
satiety, energy. Yeah, I think, yeah. So lots and lots of
So
data.
much, so
Yes, so
much.
much data. And any bits of this data can be turned on or off based on the agreement that you made with your coach of these are the things that we should probably focus on, and let's just disregard the rest for right now. But let's stay in this lane right here. So
Yeah.
During the process of signing up as a client, I'm going to provide my name, email address, some pertinent information, all that stuff, billing details, get signed up. If I've got a coupon code, I'm going to use it, pop that in there. If you want to take $50 off your first month, you can use code Chris or code Josh for $50 off, whatever.
Good one.
Right. And also, you're already listening to this podcast, you can use the code INSIDEWAG. That'll also get you $50 off your first month membership.
Smooth.
So
that was good.
Look at that, everyone. We're trying to help you. And so, you sign up. I answer some questions, height, weight, kind of where I'm at, like, do I have familiarity with tracking macros? Am I afraid of that? Does that make me nervous? Do I feel overwhelmed about that? Or can I look at foods and determine how much, whether it's a protein, carb, or fat source, or all the above, general stuff that gives you, the coach, an idea of my skill level, my knowledge, what I've tried in the past, what my obstacles are. Like if I'm not much of a meal planner, or I travel a lot, I eat out a lot, and that's not changing. So help me sort that out, right? A whole questionnaire that's very, very thorough. And the more information you provide, the more information your coach has to understand you. And then hopefully, if you got the time, you can snap some quick progress photos, front, side, back, other side, get those uploaded, gives the coach an idea of what your current body composition is, according to your weight, body fat, stuff like that. It just gives us an idea of the starting point. And then, from there, once I've done everything on my side, I hit submit. And then our director of coaching, Brittany, or myself, will go in and then assign that client based on the criteria and the information they provided to align you with the best fit coach.
That's right.
If you're an Olympic weightlifter, a competitive athlete, you might be assigned to, Josh, Taylor, Sean, I think Maria too as well, like some other clients or whatever, or some other coaches. And so we're really going to be looking at that information to try to make the best personality fit and experience fit with the coach based on you. And then from there, within 24 hours, I'm going to get a program from my coach. So that's where the coach that I've been assigned to, let's say it's you, Josh, then takes over and then does with this information what you do.
So after you hit submit and the coaching director gets the questionnaire over to the coach, basically what happens is that the coach takes a fair bit of time to go through every single question and kind of do their best to kind of put the whole picture together, like the goal of this person, where they're starting at, what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do, which is something that is really important that may often get overlooked. There has to be barriers and guidelines and things like that. So the coach will kind of look through the questionnaire, maybe read between the lines a little bit and decide where to start someone off. So we'll say Chris signed up, he gets paired with me, and he's looking to lose 10 pounds in the next 90 days. We'll just say, just for whatever,
reasonable,
a reasonable goal for podcast purposes. That's what I'm looking at. Right. So I look at his entire questionnaire, where he's starting. Does he eat out a lot? Does he drink? Does he work out routinely? Does he sleep well? These are all questions that are included in the questionnaire. So I go through there, determine kind of where he's at, and then ultimately I go through a process to devise a calorie count and macro plan for him, specifically for him. Like, hopefully this has been squashed. That there's no cookie cutter plan for anybody. Like if anyone just starts spitting out numbers with no method to the
reasoning.
Reasoning. Then highly suspect. I know that there's quite a few macro calculators out there that you can get online, and maybe those will get you close, maybe. But every single program that we do and every client that we work with, their macros are designed specifically for them, for their goals, based on the answers to the questions and their body type and the whole deal. So
a note on that. So if somebody expresses that they're lucky to maybe get 50 grams of protein in a day, you're not going to go and assign them 200 grams of protein from the start.
Right.
Right. Like a macro calculator might do, not taking consideration those variables and context.
Yeah. Because as a coach, you might be able to write the perfect macro diet plan, the perfect amount of calories for someone. But if I give it to Chris and Chris is like, well, this sucks and I can't even do this,
It's
then
too
he's
much food, Josh.
yeah, we do get that.
Yeah.
We do get that. We can come back to that. But if it's
Yep.
like, if it's completely unreasonable and something that he's like, I can't do that, then right away he's going to feel defeated.
Yes.
Now, the coach will work with, if there's any concerns, he can immediately message me and say, yo, I don't know if I can do this. I've never eaten this much food before, or maybe this is not a lot of food. I'm going to need help so I don't feel starving all the time. There's all these initial concerns that come off, like right when you get your program. Sometimes it goes very smooth. I would say
Yeah.
a lot of the times it goes very smooth. But if you
Yeah.
get those immediately, like some red flags start popping off, that's what we're here for. That's what the
Yes.
coach is there for. Ask the questions.
That's where your
Message us.
honesty and vulnerability really can go the distance in
Yep.
communicating your needs effectively to your coach, and them empathizing with that and saying, well, let's find another way.
Yeah.
Thank you for participating.
Yeah, totally. Like the more communication that if a client shares with the coach, like the better the relationship's going to be.
Mhm.
And if you've used online nutrition coaching before and you don't get that from your coach, then I would say you should probably switch coaches, because
Yeah.
there's something's not right there.
Yeah.
And I know that happens sometimes, and that sucks.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not what we want to do. And
No.
I can safely say that our coaches are extremely responsive and they want to hear from you. So, going back to the program, going back to getting started, I line up a macro profile and a set of calories for Chris to start with. And again, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, it's important to remember that these are the jumping off point. This is where we're starting from. The real magic starts to happen in the check-ins, when we start to see like what Chris is actually eating, how he's feeling, any questions he has, et cetera, et cetera. So I devised the macro program. I write Chris a message that says, hey, man, it's great to meet you. I saw that you're doing powerlifting right now. That's awesome. I myself did powerlifting competitively for a number of years. Blah, blah, blah. We talk about powerlifting.
Yeah.
We talk about things we have in common. I explained to him, here's your macros. This is what I'm thinking. This is where I want to start. And so I want you to put these into macros first, or MyFitnessPal, and begin tracking. If you have any problems, hit me up. Let me know what's going on, and we'll talk soon. I set his check-in date, which is going to be about a week from when I send the program. And he's off and running. And at that time, he now has complete access to me. Again, he gets the macros and he's like, whoa, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Get into Seismic, get into the messages, message your coach, say, hey, I've never hit 200 grams of protein in my life. I don't even know what that looks like. Like, can you help me out?
Yeah.
And the coach will do that. We also have these cool PDFs that we have put together that help people get started. And depending on where you're at in your journey, so if you don't even know really what a macro is or how to even start counting calories, we have a really basic like PDF like package to help you get started. If you are a seasoned athlete and you're looking to like improve performance, or maybe like you have a specific event that you're gearing up for, like we have a PDF for that too. So based on what we see as coaches, we can kind of tailor that particular PDF to your goal and what you're going for. And along with the communication with your coach, you're going to get like the best of both worlds. You now have a PDF file that you can access anytime, and you also have direct contact with your coach through Seismic, and anything that comes up, boom, they're right there. So
Yeah. And what is that accessibility? Can you explain that in terms of accessibility to your coach?
I mean, what I mean by that is if there's any questions or if there's any concerns, like you can get on Seismic and do a direct message right to your coach.
Okay.
And
And what
like,
time frames we looking at here?
Every response is within 24 hours.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. That's right. And also with check-ins, like that's a good point too. Like when you check in, the coach has 24 hours to respond to your check-in from the time that he receives it. So if Chris checks in at 3:00 today, then I have till 3:00 tomorrow to respond to him. And
Absolutely.
that's like, yep, that's how it goes. And
Yeah.
so at that point, we really start to pick up some momentum, and we get into the check-ins. You want to talk about the check-ins a little bit?
Yeah. One thing I want to just to point out too. So
Oh,
outside
sure.
of what you've provided me directly, whether it be in your written text, a voice message you sent me, or a video intro thing where you said just, "Hey, Chris, here's my starting point. Here's my face. So you can see me." Coaches
Yeah,
have the
that's
option
right.
to
That's
provide
right.
any one of those avenues for communication. So we're trying to mix that up a bit too for a little more personal touch. But what else is available to me in Seismic outside of the ability to look at data and contact you? Like we've got this thing called the knowledge base too, right?
The knowledge base, yeah,
Mm. What can I
huge.
expect to find there?
So the knowledge base, yeah, I can't believe I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's
Jeez.
all good, man. Hey, a
So
lot of clients do forget about it.
that's, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I talked a little bit about the PDFs that we have, like depending on your level of uh comfortability. Is that a word? Comfortability?
Comfortability? Sounds right.
Comfortability? Okay, we're gonna go
Yeah.
with it. Your level,
Yes.
wherever you're at in your macro tracking, your nutrition journey, we have these different PDFs. But everyone that has Seismic has access to the knowledge base, and the
Mm,
knowledge base is I mean, a
very thorough.
thorough document of the steps that you need to follow to get going. That, like, from the apps to download all the way to what to expect at your check-ins, how to, like,
How to
think about the
use
whole,
those apps,
use those apps, sure,
connect
yeah, like
them, things like that,
connect
right?
them, yeah, all
Tutorial
that stuff,
videos.
yeah, tutorial videos, yeah, and then like all the way down to like how you should start to even think about this dieting process, because it's very much a mental shift. Again, you can go
Mm,
to type in macro calculator online right now, and you'll have like 50 that just come up in Google. That doesn't teach you how to like think about your diet and how to kind of like restructure your mindset as you get into it, you know. So
right.
in this knowledge base, you'll find like multiple different like infographics, there's a pyramid that talks about, like, you know, the tiers, like things that are most important versus like not so much important.
Hmm.
um you continue on, there's lists of foods, like what should I eat if you're like, I don't know how to hit the we hear that people have trouble hitting protein a lot, so we
Right.
always apologies. If you're really good at hitting your protein, awesome, good for you,
Keep
you're
it up.
doing great,
Yeah.
keep it up. um, but like a lot of people have trouble with that. So we have, I mean, there's very lean proteins, there's moderately lean proteins, there's the fattier cuts of, you know, meat or different sources of protein, there's vegan options, there's vegetarian options. All of this is in the knowledge base. So if you're ever stuck and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, you can go to the knowledge base and check and scroll down. You can search through it, and figure out, you know, you'll probably be able to answer your own questions.
Yeah.
And then at the very bottom of that, there's even workout plans, which are actually super, super sweet. So
Mm,
there is a ton of, that's a gross oversimplification,
yeah.
but that's in Seismic. You have access to it 24/7. It's a tremendous resource. It's awesome.
Yes. Well said. And I would dare say, Josh, that in your experience as a coach for six,
Mhm.
7 years, would you say that the clients who take your weekly feedback in interactions together in conjunction with the information in resources available in Seismic and the ability to go find the answers they're looking for rather than relying on you for every little thing tend to generally have better success because they tend to understand what the purpose and process is and then incorporate the skill sets that need to follow in order to produce the results they're looking for. Is
Yeah,
that generally
100%.
the case?
100%.
Awesome.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah,
when I signed up, that's what I did.
me too.
My coach was really, really firm in what he wanted me to do, and if I got stuck, I of course could reach out to him,
Right.
but I also wanted to do a lot of the work myself, and I learned
Yeah.
a ton doing that, and I would share that with him, and I would ask him questions, but
Yep.
I used the knowledge base a lot, and I also did just a lot of work and reading labels,
Yeah.
figuring out what was going to work best for me in different situations. So yeah, it's a great it's a great resource, and I think you probably
Yeah.
did the same.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was at my day job that I hated and I spent most of my time, 40 hours a week, looking up flexible dieting
That's
recipes,
awesome. Yeah.
understanding macronutrient counts, and like all these things. Like I was fascinated by the process, and I was genuinely intrigued and invested in this thing that I invested in monetarily, financially, time and energy wise. And for me, I didn't want to be a person spinning his wheels any longer. I had done that too many times. So like I was really trying to get the most out of the value that I was putting in, and getting more value out of that. And the value that you get out of the coaching is what you're willing to put into it. The ability to be a person who goes and seeks out answers, and is a problem solver and
Right.
sees an obstacle as an opportunity to set the bar a little bit higher, or say, I dare to find out what I'm capable of if I just tried something a little different this time. And then it opens up so many new avenues of possibility, and it's motivating. It creates momentum, and it just starts to kind of like break down those self-limiting thoughts, behaviors, because you're actively showing yourself that you can actually do something that you haven't quite convinced yourself you could until you actually tried it, gave
Right.
it a shot, be willing
Yeah.
to fail along the way.
Yep.
Um, yeah, we got so many good things in there. I mean, ways to help you figure out what to eat at restaurants, information guides, macro friendly drinks at Starbucks. Like we literally try to do everything we possibly can to make you successful. And in the way that we like to look at it is, if you're paying for this service, extrapolate all that you can, squeeze everything you can out of this, right?
Right.
And during the time we have you, we may only have you for 3 to 4 months. We may have you for up to 3 years.
Yeah.
A lot of us coaches have various degrees of clientele retention, coming on for 3 to 4 months, leaving for a little while, coming back because they hadn't learned enough, or hadn't, maybe they were trying to be too aggressive. And this time they're willing to take the slow, steady approach.
Right.
So many different things can take place. And there is no one right or wrong way to do it, because of everyone who is different coming into the program. So on my side of things, after I get my program from Josh, I start cooking along, and maybe the initial goal isn't to be like, hey, Chris, try to hit these macros. It's just like, hey, let's not change a dang thing about what you're doing.
Right.
Let's just implement the food scale under your plate and start measuring and monitoring. And I think this is a key point to make, that when we always say like what gets measured gets managed.
Yeah,
I
that's it.
say that right? Right.
Yeah.
So think of your nutrition like it's no different than your finances, right? Like if you sit down, balance your paycheck or your budget and your checkbook, and you realize, okay, these bills are coming out, and then, I get paid again on this date, and you can see forecasting of your expenditures, what you're saving, where money's going to, all that stuff. It's the same exact thing as your nutrition, right? Your calories are a budget that you get to spend every day, and how you spend them will dictate how successful you are in savings,
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah.
I kind of like using that financial analogy, because I
Perfect.
mean, yeah, in a way, like nobody would judge you about monitoring your finances to be financially responsible, right?
Right.
Like it's the same way to be calorically responsible. I mean, there's no different. And the idea is, as we've said numerous times on the podcast, is that tracking is the training wheels on learning to ride a bike. And then once you get the skills and the knowledge to stay upright, you don't need those training wheels anymore, and you can kick them off. You might introduce them when you have specific intentional dietary phases,
Right.
as we'll talk about in an episode that's being released soon.
Yep.
But you just know what the commitment that you're about to take on, and then acceptance of the reality that you're facing and the obstacles that you face, to find a reasonable way of living, and working with your coach to continuously find solutions, and slowly break down some of those self-limiting factors, you know?
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's perfect. Now, let's let's go ahead and jump into like the check-ins. So
Yeah.
so like I said before, Chris gets his macros, he gets on his way. Maybe he's got a question here and there. He messages me, I message him back. No big deal. Week
Yeah.
1 is done, and it's time to check in. What do we do? What's going on with the check-in?
All right. So I've got two ways to check in. You can use Seismic in a web browser, which was always how I preferred to check in. This was pre-Seismic mobile app,
Right.
iOS or Android.
Yeah.
So that was just my preferred way to do it. And I just liked having a full keyboard and all that stuff. And it's easier than doing it in the app and on my phone. So you can log into Seismic in a web browser, get seismic.com, or you can download the iPhone or Android app and pop in. And then essentially you've got your series of logs chronologically ordered by date, most recent at the top, later down the week. And then you're just going to, like, if you've got My Fitness Pal or Macros First connected and synced with Seismic, you don't have to do a thing. All that data just fluidly comes into Seismic for you to see and for your coach to see on their side, on their dashboard, so they can get an idea of your actual compliance to the macros, overall compliance, how many calories you're hitting, things like that at a glance. So when I check in, this is what I'm going to do. This is literally the process. You're going to pop in. I'm going to upload my progress photos that I took, hopefully that morning. If you can take them the night before, just to have them prepared. If it saves you some time, go for it. I like to
In the
just get
morning,
those
though.
in the morning is ideal.
Fasted.
Yep,
Fasted.
fasted, because
Important.
that's more or less a measure of your body's set point,
Mm-hmm.
because it's before you've eaten anything, drinking anything, and before, after you've gone to the bathroom, exhausted your bowels and things like that. And so that's more or less a clearer picture of how things are looking.
That's right.
And we do that weekly. So progress photos. And again, you I've got clients who check in without progress photos. That's fine, right? We use other measurements. So I'll take my body measurements, I'll input those. I'll change some sliders for mood metrics, like how my mood was, my energy, my hunger, my stress. And that gives the coach an indication of how I'm feeling about things and what's going on in my world. If I'm tracking things like water, I'm going to put in the number of ounces that I've drinking every day. Quality of sleep or sleep length. If I've had any alcohol and if I've eaten out, those factors. And then basically we've got kind of like a prompt that just gives you some idea of like what to cover in your check-in. So your typed summary to your coach is essentially a high level summary of what happened through the week.
Yeah.
Ideally, I'm going to start out with the positives. That's what a lot of coaches want to look for. A lot of clients will check in and be like, here's all the things I didn't do this week. And the coaches are like, okay, so what did you do? And so we like to start with some positives. So I want us to be like, hey, so I did a great job drinking 90 ounces of water every day. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I didn't quite hit my protein goal, but here's what I did to hit the level that I did. And here's what I'm considering to do this week to improve on that. But I'm open to some suggestions that you have, Josh. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm sleeping pretty good, but it could be better. But overall, not feeling too stressed. Workouts are doing good. I'm recovering well. Pretty happy with things are going. Haven't seen any movement on the scale, but that's okay. I'm not stuck on that because I'm feeling good. Right. And I give you my 2 cents. And then I say, look forward to hearing from you, Josh. I hope you're well. Take care, dude. And I hit submit. And then that gets popped over to you. And then you're going to then review my check-in and reply in 24 hours.
Yep. And
what are you looking for?
Yeah, so every coach might have a different way that they go about this. In Seismic, when we open a check-in, the first thing we see is the pictures, if they're there, the pictures. Then we see like the mood and everything, and then we see the macros, and then there's the feedback, all the stuff that Chris just mentioned. So right away, we're looking for maybe some changes, some improvements in the photos. And then we're taking note of the mood, stress, hunger, and energy levels. Like, how's he doing? If Chris is like, energy is like at a 10, like he's feeling great. Stress is at a 1, stress is super low, like awesome, things are going great. So we take a look at those, and then we take a look at the feedback, all the stuff that Chris just shared. Excuse me, all the stuff that Chris just shared. We'll look through that. And this gets a little bit tricky in the sense that, like, we know what he's saying, but we're also kind of looking for what he's not saying.
Reading between the lines, huh?
Reading between the lines. I mean, and that maybe like that could be a whole nother episode. When you're talking about coaching, that's like a coaching thing for sure. Now I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but there's definitely some good things, that's going on in Chris's world. Like, he hit his water. He did pretty good with protein, but he's struggling a little bit. He asked me a question about that. So in my reply, I'm going to basically follow the same structure that he has shared with me. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go in and acknowledge, like the good things that are going on, and say like, yeah, you were talking about missing your protein a little bit. Was looking through your food logs, and I noticed that, I mean, maybe he's missing a good source of protein. Maybe he could have more chicken, or maybe some more turkey. Maybe he's not eating fish, and he could get some more protein from that. I'm looking for things that would make his week easier that he's not including.
Hmm.
And there's a saying that I say it, or I think about it all the time, and it's hard to read the label when you're in the bottle. And
Interesting.
the coach is outside of the bottle looking in, because when you get so into it and you're like so focused on doing this thing right, it's very easy to get tunnel vision. And if a coach is like, hey man, like you're really close, if you had a protein shake before you went to bed, you would be there. And he might go, whoa, I didn't even think about that. That's so
Yeah.
easy. And then boom, we're there. Carbohydrates. Sometimes we see people that come in and maybe they're like 20 or 30 grams low, and they're like, I can't hit my carbs. I don't know how to do it. And I'll say, you're really just looking at an apple.
Yeah.
Like literally like 25. You have a palm size apple. It's going to be
Yeah.
like 25 grams of carbs, give or take, right?
Yep.
Do you do that? You're straight. And they're like, whoa, like that's it? I'm
I
like,
can do
yeah, that's it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can be like kind of like tricky, because you get so in your head about some things, and that's when the coach steps in and says, actually, like you're a lot closer than you think,
Yeah.
and here's how to do it, and we kind
Hmm.
of like lead you through that process. On the flip side of things, there's also a time and a place where the coach says, hey man, if you want to continue to progress and get to these goals, we got to tighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
And here's how we can do it. It's not as far fetched as you might think.
Yep.
So let's talk about this. Let's set some goals for the week, and we kind of continue on like that.
Yeah.
Um,
And usually
that's
that's
what.
an exchange, right? It's not just like you
Mhm.
dictating what they need to do. You're generally, as a coach, you're going to offer maybe like 3 to 5 suggestions. You're like, you tell me
Right.
what works for you and what is the most feasible application
Hmm.
in what you know about your world. Because clients know your world, their world better than we will ever know their
Right.
world. But we
Yeah.
do our best.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely like a give, like a give and a take. Like
Yeah.
the communication is so important. So like
Yes.
I might say to Chris, like, let's think about two things that you are like 100% certain that you can do. Two things that you would think are so silly you wouldn't even tell me,
Hmm.
but you're so confident that you can do them.
Okay.
Water is one of them. If he's like, I know that I can hit 100 ounces of water a day every single day this week, and I know that I can go to bed 30 minutes earlier. It's like, great. Those things might sound super simple to him, and
Hmm.
maybe super simple to someone that's listening. Like, yeah, of course, what, 10 ounces more of water, go to bed a half hour earlier. Yeah, that's easy stuff. That's
Right.
great. That's the kind of stuff you want. You want to do
Hmm.
those things and build momentum. So to go back to the actual check-in, I might offer some suggestions like that, and different alternatives and ways that he can improve his week that are not so outrageous, but just like little things to improve.
Yeah.
So I'll go through that. I'll type it up, say, thanks a lot, Chris. We're going to keep our macros here for the week. It looks like things are going really well. Um, let's work on these two things. Let me know your thoughts.
Yep.
And, I'll send that to him, and he'll read it and give it some thought and maybe reply back. He doesn't, so you don't have to reply. Like there might be a check-in where the coach doesn't necessarily ask you a question, or is not requesting a direct response or reply. You can reply if you want to,
Yeah.
but it's also not necessary for the client to reply to every single message if there's no need to.
Yeah.
If as a coach, if I'm like, hey, things are going really well, let's keep hitting that water. Like, make sure you're getting protein in at every single meal. It looks like you're doing a great job of that, and I'll talk to you next week. Keep it
Yeah.
going, man. You're killing it.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, he feels good, I feel good about what's going on, and we both kind of sail on our way.
Yeah.
So
You're assuming
not
everything's great.
yeah, that's right. Not every check-in is going to be like this. request for ideas,
Right.
and this kind of like back and forth. It can be
Hmm.
if you wanted to, but it's not necessarily like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Nope.
So
But
yeah.
however, it is helpful though when, we get some clients that might, get the notification that their coach replied to their check-in in Seismic, and then they're in the middle of the day, and that comes up, and they're like, oh, let me just pop in real quick, and then it just gets quickly skimmed. You're like, was there any macro changes? Nope. Okay, cool. And they're just kind of like on their way or whatever. And,
Yeah.
right.
Good
But if
point.
your coach has specifically asked exploratory questions to better understand the why behind you're not doing something, or the why behind what's limiting you, and you're not providing that exchange that of information, then things can sometimes fall flat if it's not an exchange, and keeping the conversation going, or the
Right.
conversation resets every week, where it's not this continuous thing like, hey, here's the things you said that we're working on, and I'm going to reply directly to the things we're working on until we hit a satisfactory point with that, and we're like, well, what's next? What should we
Right.
work on next? Right.
Yeah.
It's so crucial, so critical, because otherwise we can be left in the dark, and it makes our job harder. It could lead to more frustration on the client side because they're not getting the results they're looking for. But at the same time, they're not responding to the questions we're trying to ask to find solutions. And if we don't have that exchange, we don't know what we don't know. And so
Yeah.
I couldn't ask current clients and future clients to really, really participate in that process, even if it's just a quick answer back to your coach. It might take a couple of messages to exchange it or whatever. It's worth it. That's where the value really, really comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then essentially, yeah, the process is like, over at least a minimum of 3 to 4 months, we're going to keep checking in, and we're going to, hopefully kind of chip away at the results. We're going to look at averages and weight trends. If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to maintain weight, if you're trying to build muscle mass, we're going to look at all these metrics. Everything that we're collecting, and the coach, as an objective outsider, is going to be like, cool, everything's looking good. We're in a lane. We got you in a groove now. This is where the boring and mundane needs to take over. Because sometimes we may not have the sexiest things to say to you every week, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it might just be like, hey, let's get your sleep. Let's get your water in. Let's practice your, stress management. Go do things that bring you joy. Go see your friends. Have a meal out or two this week. Maybe enjoy one on track day this week. Like, there's so many things that we can do to implement into the program that is part of it. And as long as it's part of it and you're willing to follow those recommendations,
Mm-hmm.
the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
There's so
And
much we can do.
yeah, all those things that Chris just said, like, those come about like as the program goes.
Yes.
Like, the more consistent you are with check-ins, and the more like open and honest you are with your coach, the more open and honest the coach is going to be with you. You learn about each other, you learn about like what works and what doesn't, and then all of a sudden, like, it could very well be like, you know what, we're just going to take the weekend off and not worry about things. You're doing super, super well, and the coach will take a look at all these factors that could possibly contribute to that, and then offer that as a suggestion.
Yeah.
But we said it early on, but the real magic happens in these check-ins, because that's where we're looking for the data and the results and the progress, and we're adjusting macros based on your needs and goals. And it's really a cool process. And the more you engage, the more the coach engages, and it's a really positive thing. Like,
It is.
it was life changing for us. And I know that every person that I talk to, I want them to walk away from the check-in feeling motivated and ready to take action for another week.
Yes.
Like, if we can get something that like build some momentum and get going, whether it's just the smallest thing, or if it's like this, hey, we're going to really go for this, whatever that might be. I want whoever I'm talking to feel ready to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And and that's one of our goals as coaches.
Yeah. Execution to succeed,
Yeah. Totally.
Execute and succeed. Yeah.
Totally.
That's what we do. And, the more people's lives that we can change, it just really, that's the value that we're trying to provide in this world.
Yeah.
We, as we said before, our goal is for you to not need our services.
Yeah.
That's the empowerment that we want to provide you. We want to
Yeah.
give you the gift of knowledge and acceptance of what you're capable of,
Yeah.
so that the sky is the limit and there is no level at which you can set your bar to,
Yeah.
because you're willing to say, well, I got here. Why can't I get to here? Well, I got to here. Why can't I get to here? Right.
Right.
That's it. And that's what it did for me. I know it's what it did for you. Your
Yeah.
life has changed monumentally since these days, children, all these things. But like,
Yeah.
I imagine all these things helped you be a better person, a better father. And you're probably happy for doing that prior to that, I'm sure.
Oh, for
Instead
sure.
of trying to do it now in the midst of managing kids, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For
It's
sure.
a cool thing, man. So yeah, I think we covered everything, and
Yeah.
as always, if people have questions, you can send in your questions to info@workingagainstgravity.com. We're going to get our social media coordinator, Ellie, to throw up some questions on our Instagram so that there's topics you guys want us to talk about. We would love to do some future rapid fire Q&As and things like that. So be on the lookout for that. If you're an avid listener of the podcast, we'd love, a 5-star review. Like, subscribe, whatever. Do those things. It helps broaden the exposure of the podcast and the possibility of sending those waves and us helping more people succeed.
That's right.
And that's what we're here to do.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And quick reminder, if you use the code INSIDEWAG at checkout at workingagainstgravity.com/join, you will get a lovely $50 off your first month membership of one-on-one coaching. And we'll get to work with the likes of myself, Josh, or any of the amazing WAG nutrition coaching staff.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, gang, for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time.